gonga cheers, impunity ikicelebrate, itatizwe na sauti ya nyundo kwa court wakiface judgment. Iwe funzo kwa wenye tabia kama hiyo, mwizi wa uhai hukumu isiwe kuchunwa sikio. Hatuko nawe, they took you away. Lala, lala salama. Hatuko nawe, they took you away. Tapatana machozi ya jana. Ewe Mungu wajua njia zangu yatengeze, yale siwezi yasongeze. Wewe ndiye nguvu ya wanyonge. Ewe Mungu wajua njia zangu yatengeze, yale siwezi yasongeze. Wewe ndiye nguvu ya wanyonge. Hatuko nawe, they took you away. Lala, lala salama. Hatuko nawe, they took you away. Tapatana machozi ya jana. Mungu abariki, asante man. Mnisede kuimba isawa? Shagala bagala. Niko tayari kulipa gharama, sitasimama maovu ya kitawala. Sitasimama maovu ya kitawala. Ufisadi, ubinafsi, ukabila, kuuza sura wataki kuuza sera. Undugu ni kufaana, sitasimama maovu ya kitawala. Sitasimama maovu ya kitawala. To get wadhifa, una deserve bila kasha makashfa. Hii society Kenya wanaeza share ni nyungu ya busa ama keto ya shisha. Mfuko unasikia echo, unajua thamani ya mali na size ya kifuli. Eyo, ujaibiwa jua unakaa kitu. What? Risking jail time, police bullets for. Unaweza argue crime doesn't pay, lakini wezi dismiss justice ina pay. Mwizi ana 40 days, 365 days later anaendelea kugrow fatter. Do anything for power, ready to lose their head for presidency. Bora waione kwa currency. Sababu gani siko affected na turbulence? Flanga ni mezo the same feeling. Matatu zikipitia portal mtaani. Julian, yeah, nisaidie. Kala bagala, niko tayari kulipa gharama. Sitasimama maovu ya kitawala. Sitasimama maovu ya kitawala. Ufisadi hey, sura wataki kuuza sera. Undugu ni kufana. Sitasimama DJ wapi kidero when you need to slap somebody? Complain ufisadi kwani ulidhani 50 bob leso t-shirt siku ya campaign ilikuwa free? Ni 5-year loan investment, utalipa kingia parliament. We are one, ama ni we are one. Utumishi kwa wote, utu missing CCTV we were watching. Racial insecurity na job opportunity ni kama mti ya kibiriti. Side moja heavy. Usiniambie Kenya kuna umaskini, kwani hizi fat fingers zinaibia nane? Maskando zina threaten our survival. Media define leadership. Nasurukia ka front page na improve leadership. Ambia sa wa Twitter wa hashtag hii ama hash reality doesn't make a good TT. Commission of Inquiry walikula commission bila kutupa ukweli. ni kubaya, mpaka kukiwa kuzuri unashindwa nini mbaya. Machozi ya perpetrator inaweza dilute damu ya victim ilimwagika. Machozi ya perpetrator inaweza dilute damu ya victim ilimwagika. After all is said and done, all will be said and nothing will be done. Niko njaa hata si uwe hae shagala bagala, niko tayari kulipa gharama, sitasimama maovu, ala, sitasimama maovu. Ufisadi, ubinafsi, ukabila, kuuza hataki kuuza sera, undugu ni kufana, sitasimama maovu ya kitawala, sitasimama maovu ya kitawala. Mungu awabariki yao, sio? Nataka tu since niko na mic, acha tu nikimbele mbele hapa, si ndio? Nataka tu mseme kama sisi, sawa? Si ndio? Kutabadilishwa na nani kama? 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 Mungu awabariki, au sio? Alafu, it's my pleasure to introduce the one and only, the President, LSK, the amazing Faith Odhiambo wewe. Hey, swag nini? Igwe.
Thank you. Nchi mzalendo.
Hey, go for my left side screen.
Before I speak, first of all, it gives me great courage and enthusiasm to see all who have made their way here today. God bless Kenya. Allow me to first invite some of our partners who are here to stand here and just introduce themselves, who have made this possible. Please, our various partners, make your way here. Then, before I speak, I'll invite the Law Society of Kenya, Nairobi chairperson, Eric Kivuva, to also say a word.
That's a big job.
Comrades power! On behalf of the movement, Amnesty International, we salute your courage, we salute your constitutionalism and your fidelity to the rule of law. What we saw was a breakdown in the rule of law. We saw the abuse of state power, and it is this movement that has corrected this moment for the nation and for the world. Thank you. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Irungo Houghton, Executive Director, Amnesty International.
Viva, comrades, viva! More power to the people, more power! Down with police killings, down! Down with police brutality, down! Down with corruption, down! Down with Ruto, down! My name is Happy Olal, the convener, Social Justice Centers Working Group. Tuko hapa, Ruto must go. Thank you.
Some of you will be falling over if you don't sit down. Please take your seats. So I've been asked to also just to acknowledge some of the other people that have helped to put this together. This is a collective effort. There are many organizations that are on the poster, and there are many others that didn't get onto the poster but were in support. Let me acknowledge the International Commission of Jurists, Kenya section, the Independent Medical Legal Unit, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, a state agency committed to human rights. And to be honest, that is all they have been doing in the last 4 weeks. To the Defenders Coalition, who have protected and supported many of you here and many others. And also lastly, to Happy Olal, but also to the movement of social justice centers that were organizing all over the country to protect the protester. Thank you.
Comrades, power! Comrades, power! Power to the people! My name is Eric Kakemu Kivuva. I serve you as the LSK chair, Nairobi branch. And I am truly delighted today to be part of this gathering that I can only describe as a gathering of patriots, because for me, we have been brought together by the unfortunate events happening in our country, but maybe not so fortunate, because for the first time since independence, we will for once describe the country we want for us. We will for once describe the kind of leadership we want for this country. We will for once reset and even describe who a patriot is, because what has been happening is elections in this country has sanitized the worst of criminals, and we call them waheshimiwa. I am so delighted today. 13 years ago, this gentleman, Mr. Julius Owino, aka Giuliani, sang a song called Bahasha ya Ocampo. I don't know kama we remember that song. Niliponea bahasha ya Ocampo, oh, lakini kile naogopa hata zaidi, finger of God ikini point, yule. And I think 13 years later, his prophecy is coming to pass. Walioponea bahasha ya Ocampo, the finger of God has caught up with them. It is now pointing them out and calling them out. But more importantly, we the people should not be an empty rhetoric. It should be that which we live as Kenyans. And in the first verse of that song, Giuliani makes the statement, ndio ujue vitu ziko wrong, pedestrians wanapisha gari kwa zebra crossing kupita. That is the country we've had for the last 13 years, for the last 60 years. But we, the people, must describe the kind of country we want and tell ourselves we will live in a country where the rule of law is supreme and we are all faithful to the rule of law. And fellow patriots, it starts with all of us being considerate to obey the list of things, including giving regard to a zebra crossing, including giving regard to traffic lights. If that is the country we want, we must be part of that change. Ladies and gentlemen, I am truly delighted and even more privileged because I know Madam President will be giving her keynote address, especially on the subject of we, the people. Thank you very much. God bless Kenya. God bless the movement. May we, patriots, keep at it and never relent in seeking for a better country. Thank you. Just before Madam President speaks, I have been informed that those who wish to register their complaints, the desk is just outside there on the left. Madam President, Faith Odhiambo, karibu sana.
Comrades, power. I'm not feeling that power. Comrades, power. viva! Viva! Viva Kenya, viva! Viva! Protect our constitution, viva! Viva! My fellow Kenyans, comrades and colleagues, for decades our country has faced endless spate of unresolved extrajudicial killings associated with political spectrum. I remember Law Society was involved in collecting evidence for the last Mandamano killings. To date, we are still demanding from IPOA, why haven't you tabled that report? Why haven't you held those policemen accountable? Why is the Inspector General of Police still sitting on that chair? We all know about the controversial death of P.O. Gamapinto in February 24, 1965. Very few will remember January 29, 1969, where Agwins Kodek, a pioneering Mau Mau lawyer, died in a car crash under mysterious circumstances. The families of Pinto and Agwins have never known justice, and the same fate befell Thomas Joseph Adhiambo Mboya on July 5, 1969. Have we forgotten J.M. Kariuki on March 2, 1975? Where is the truth about Bruce Roy Mackenzie's death on May 24, 1979? We are here today to stand for justice for victims. We do not want to leave any man behind. The stories of those who came before us, the different regimes, the different decades, are testament that when political stars and fights come to an end, there are bodies that are littered in the streets. There are bodies that are left for our kin to deal with. Yet no one knows justice. No one sees justice for those victims. I would go on until the cows come home. And you will all see that each regime in this country has had its fair share of assassinations in an attempt to eliminate persons perceived to be standing for something that the political class do not want. Killing of innocent Kenyans on the streets started with Mzee Jomo Kenyatta on the dark Saturday of October 25th in 1969, when Jomo's visit to Kisumu turned bloody. We all know how many Kenyans died during the struggle for multi-party democracy under Moi's 24-year rule. Abductions, torture, and painful deaths did not start with this regime. The police have merely inherited the vice from generation to generation. And we are saying, does it stop in this generation? Yes. Does it stop in this generation? Yes. It must end in this generation. No more abductions, no more extrajudicial killings. President Mwai Kibaki presided over the worst tide of killings. We cannot forget about the 2007-2008 post-election violence. And we do not ever want to go back there. Uhuru Kenyatta too was no different, because every year the local newspapers reported how many people disappeared mysteriously in the hands of law enforcement agencies. And just when we thought there was a new dawn in this country, new hope, a country where the head of state was brought in the mantra for the young people, a youthful leader, we have seen police disappointing this hope. And we are demanding from the head of state that his promise that there will be no extrajudicial killings in his tenure, in his reign, that he may hold truth to that. At least if for nothing else, let people not die for standing for their beliefs. Let people not be abducted for standing for what they believe is right. And we are still demanding from him to ensure that all those who have been involved are arrested and prosecuted before our courts of law. The civil societies are struggling to put together the data of injured people, both from gunshots, crude weapons, and attempts to follow up on missing persons. We know that there are families that are still reeling in pain and anguish, and yet we want to move forward. We want to move forward, but we want to move forward with justice for everyone. These families should not be struggling with paying medical bills, struggling with fundraising to bury their kin. Yet we have a state, we have a nation that the head of state has committed that they will be held accountable. for each and every death, for each and every person who have been injured. I've visited people at Kenyatta National Hospital. Young men and women like you who now will never walk again, they have lost their hands. Where do they start? We cannot move on and forget them. For a nation to grow, we must move on together. And that is what we, the Law Society of Kenya, and coalition of all our partners here today are standing for in this great country. Fellow Kenyans, today we want us to begin a journey of truth and justice. Today we walk back the hands of time towards tracing the whereabouts of our missing brothers and sisters. Walk with me as we seek justice for our fallen heroes of the leaderless revolution. We are going to ensure that we give our family the hope to wake up every morning knowing that their son or daughter whose remains are buried in graves spread throughout this country are not in vain. To that mother, to that aunt, to that sister, to that father, to that brother looking for their loved ones, please come to us. We have created a network of social and civil rights defenders working together to unravel these mysteries. Let this be the last time that Kenyans will take to the streets in peace, only for trigger-happy policemen to flood the same streets with their blood and walk scot-free. The plan is to set camp at almost every county that experienced police brutality during our protests. I want to raise my greatest appreciation for my different branch chairs all around the country that mobilized their members upon my request and call to go out to the different police stations all around the country. That is why we've been able to make a mark. Each and every one of my branch chairs, my council members, and every lawyer who heeded my request and call are the heroes that I can sing proudly from the Law Society side, coming to defend the rights of Kenyans and fighting against any trumped-up charges, those who have been kept beyond the required period in prisons, and trying to ensure the safety and freedom of all Kenyans who had been arrested. There are so many people out there living in pain inflicted by the police. It could be mental health or just desolation. Please come out. Let our experienced team of experts offer psychosocial support to help you heal. Today we begin here at the historic Ufungamano House. We are coming to you all around the country. The Law Society of Kenya, together with all our partners here, have membership across the country, and with the support of our various branches and offices, have remained zealous and steadfast at protecting the Constitution. If we work together in this, then our defenseless families will not shed tears in vain. As a mother and a lawyer, I stand here today with a heavy heart of what we have seen the last few weeks, the numerous calls that I've received, those in distress, even at very wee hours of the morning. It shows to you the waning strength of so many members of the public. Though in fear, some struggling, some in despair, but yet our young generation are still coming out strongly and firmly, affirming that we are standing for accountability, transparency, we are fighting corruption. We want to see a positive change in our government. Those who have been coming out are loyal patriots of this country. They are standing to see a change. They are the same James Orengos and amongst others who came to fight for multi-party democracy. This is a fight against corruption, a fight for accountability, a fight for transparency, which we must embrace as a nation to move forward together. Even in commemorating those of us who are no longer among us, it would be remiss of me not to appreciate each and every one of your zealous, ingenious, persistent, and unified sacrifice for our country. You are ridiculed, underestimated, threatened, and vilified, all in an attempt to break your resolve to reclaim your country. Through it all, you remained peaceful and focused on the noble objective of standing for what is right and what you deserve. Your courage is unparalleled, your patriotism unchallenged, and your unity against all political barriers unprecedented. You are exactly what you think you are. You are the heroes of today. The irrefutable gains of what you people stand for shines a bright ray of hope upon the future of our country. If you do not believe it yet, allow me to confirm to you that you people have achieved what many dreamed of and wished for, but few realized. A weak and unreliable parliament betrayed you, the people who they swore to represent you. Mlianguka now. A punitive tax regime was forced down the throats of Kenyans despite public outcry against the repressive finance bill. Mlianguka nayo. The political elite unified to run Kenya down the rabbit hole of treachery and deceit to deviate you from your resolve to bring change to Kenya. Namely, an ineffective, incompetent, and arrogant cabinet represented impunity and refused to work for the people from whom the power they exercised. And once again, today marks a crucial step in our progressive journey towards real sustainable change for our country. This is the onset of a series of deliberations by sovereign citizens of Kenya to reflect on who, where, and what we are as a country. The preamble to our constitution defines who we are. Article 10 prescribes what we ought to be, and the entirety of our constitution in its brilliant magnificence envisions where we ought to be as a nation. However, time without number, those to whom we have bestowed power and trust to deliver to us the dream of Katiba 2010 have failed us. Tumewapatia lakini wamekataa kuperform. Kenya finds itself in a constitutional moment, one where the people have reclaimed their sovereignty and are ready to rid of any individual, institution, or entity that jeopardizes the well-being of the country and defies constitutional principles. What started as demonstrations against the Finance Bill 2024 has spun into a domino effect that gives us an opportunity for change that is ours to lose. Shida zetu zikianguka bado, lazima zimeingia one leg. It is thanks to this realization that the Law Society of Kenya, all our partners and stakeholders have taken the obvious step to join all of you in forging the path on which we want our country set. Thank you for embracing us. Thank you for allowing us to stand with you, and thank you for allowing us to be part of you. My speech was quite long, but I wanted to also highlight that we have seen changes in the Police Service Commission. We have seen so many trainings, but now we are saying we are going to hold you accountable. We are not going to sit and start discussing a way forward for training, better institutions for police. It's time for accountability. It's time that those who have been given power and have abused it to be held accountable. That's why we are here today, to count everyone and ensure no one is left behind. That when we are challenged that who are these people, where were they hurt, which place, we'll be able to table credible evidence as advocates and our different partners, that will be able to put this at the table. That should be part of the discussion. Any dialogue must start with information and telling us these number of people that we have collected, this data, what are you doing about it? And we know that IPOA will be coming today, that IPOA may also take responsibility and take that mantle. We will not allow you to continue to fail us as a people of Kenya. You must also take up your place and hold any police officers that have been identified, have been seen. You can't tell us that you cannot find them, yet our Gen Zs, our millennials, our youth our fellow Kenyans are able to trace them and to find their details and have shared them with you, but you refuse to do your work. To independent institutions, the judiciary, constitutional commissions, independent offices, and statutory bodies, it is high time you stand up to be counted. People have been killed by police, but IPOA is yet to act. People have been outed for corrupt conduct by EACC is yet to institute relevant proceedings. The helplessness feigned by our institution is the greatest enabler for the tribulations we face. The hesitation and refusal by proper mandated authorities to take action in the face of subversion of the rule of law and constitutional principles is the reassurance upon which our aggressors act with impunity. Government frustration and refusal to cooperate are in no way, shape, form, or fashion unacceptable excuse. The people are with you, they will support you, they will help you finish the job, but only if you start doing it and doing it well. Na hata nyinyi mkikataa, Wakenya mtafanya nini? Lastly, to the political leadership and elected representatives, there is no honor higher than being chosen by the people to serve your country. That honor requires delicate, deliberate, impartial, and accountable exercise of that authority that is donated to you. Hubris and bravado are vices that have no place in the Kenya of today. The people of Kenya awake to their full authority as the true sovereign, and their realization of the beauty of their unity draws the curtains on divisive ethnic politics that has historically been endemic in this Kenyan's politics. It's time to become leaders, not rulers. It is time to represent and serve the people, not to be demigods desperate for constant praise and worship. It is time to act, not making unyielding promises. Henceforth, contempt for the people will neither go unnoticed nor remain unresolved. Gen Z wame? Hii ni tofauti. Gen Z wamegotha? We will not believe, you will not believe. From the Law Society of Kenya and all our partners, we make our solemn understanding that what we have done over the last few weeks have been fueled by the strength we have drawn from your courage. For as long as you stand for what you believe is just, fair, and right before the law, we will stand for you and will fight for you. Join me in this final prayer, the prayer for our forefathers, the prayer of our nation. We say the first stanza of our national anthem in English. O God of all creation, bless this our land and nation. Justice be our shield and defender. May we dwell in unity, peace, and liberty. Plenty be found within our borders. I pray that God bless you and God bless Kenya. Really? Have you guys come? Come. Steve.
I hope all our heads will fit inside. Let me come on this side. Let me come on the other side of me. Will we all fit? Tunarudia chini ama we are here now?
Were we going back down?
Do we go back or stay?
We're
Where's the next panel here?
Yeah. Watatuita in case they need us.
Hi, how are you? Nice to see you. Well done for this. From the last 3 days.
Okay, Badu.
All right, okay. Thank you very much to everyone. Really appreciate
Just stand by.
President. Perhaps the best president this country has ever seen. A better round of applause for Madam President, please. And absolutely, really great, the comments and seeing what we have to do today. I'd like to call us back to attention because we have a lot to cover today. My name is James Smart. Allow me to welcome all of you again for the second panel. On this second panel, we have Dr. Willie Mutunga, who's joining us on X-Space, the famous X-Space. All right, let's listen to Dr. Willie Mutunga, former retired Chief Justice. All right, Dr. CJ, please give us your comments.
Gen Z and millennials, thank you very much for what you are doing. There is, I'm in Kabarak actually, and there is a joke going around here, which I think I should tell you. Apparently, the president is going around looking for a general called General Z. This reminds me of Idi Amin going to the central bank looking for one of the workers who was called foreign exchange, who was never around in Uganda, and they wanted to kill him. So, my comment, there are two comments that I want to make, and I've made them in other spaces. One is that what happened the other day, and I think this has been discussed, so I'm just reinforcing what we have always said for a long time, that the factions that rule Kenya cannot be described in the way we describe them as that there's one faction that is the lesser evil, and that we have to choose evil. They have come together, they've shown that they are birds of the same political feather, and they have identified themselves as the enemy of the people. And that's progress, because we have had for the last 60 years or so the politics of division and the politics of monetization, which you must avoid, at all costs. And you have started a revolution. There's no doubt about that. And we wait and, we hope that you continue your political demands to emphasize, the concerns of your material interests and needs, education, health, jobs, struggles against foreign domination, housing, everything that is important for your existence. Your posters have captured those particular issues in a revolutionary manner. I've loved the calls, or the clarion calls, which you have called occupations. Even the occupation of IMF, and the World Bank, making that connection between our rulers and our external rulers is very, very, very important if we are going to carry on this revolution to its successful change. So I've also want to praise you for breathing life into the Constitution. we have a constitution that, you know, is fairly progressive, but we gave it to, you know, leaders who find it inconvenient and they don't want to implement it. But you've come to the scene and you're basically saying that you want to exercise our sovereign power directly. And I think that's what is reflected in the various calls for occupations, whether it's the occupation of parliament, occupation of state house, occupation of, I guess, the judiciary and all the institutions. So these are great clarion calls. And so I just want to finish by again glorifying what you're doing and asking you to keep your eyes on the prize, avoid divisions, because the people you are dealing with or the class you are dealing with, you should never underestimate them. They are geniuses in politics of division, ethnicity, religion, and if that doesn't work, they also got plenty of money to, you know, to stop this particular movement. So thank you very much. Aluta continua, and victory is certain. Thank you.
Thank you very much, retired Chief Justice Dr. William Mutunga, there giving us his thoughts. Let's get straight into it and introduce my panel for what we need to do next. Hussein Khalid, please join me on the stage. Irungi Houghton as well, join me on the stage. And Gloria Kimani of LSK Council member also join me on the stage. A round of applause, please, as they join me on stage. So for this panel, what we'd like to do is we want to capture reflections of what has happened in these last 4 weeks. There's been reported police excesses, there's been disappearance, abductions, illegal arrests, killings, injuries, and that sort of thing. And we haven't spent time as a country to capture exactly what has happened. What does that mean? In essence, are we saying that protesting is an illegal thing in this country? And if it's not, why did we see the reactions that we saw? Let me start with you, Hussein Khalid.
Thank you very much, Smart. And let me first of all congratulate everyone and the entire country. Comrades power! Comrades power! We're doing it, we're changing this country, and you know, moving forward, things will never be the same. So I'll just speak briefly about my experiences on the ground as, you know, a person who has been, you know, visiting families, visiting the sick in hospital. I think there have been gross human rights violations in the last couple of weeks. Many families have suffered, continue to suffer. We have an entire ward at the Kenyatta National Hospital of victims of police excesses, and that's just one hospital. We have many other hospitals in different parts, not just of Nairobi, but of the entire country, that have people who are sick. Up to now, you know, we're still trying to understand the magnitude of the violations that have been meted out on Kenyans. I think in the midst of everything, we get, you know, taken up by the success, the dismissal of the cabinet, the withdrawal of the finance bill, and we forget to remember that people have paid with their lives and limbs for us to be where we are today, and they must never be forgotten. In a number of instances, some were even, you know, approached. I remember we were at the burial of David Chege, and the police officers were there. And we had just gone there to drape the coffin with the flag and to give another flag to the family. And the propaganda that was going around was that this is supposed to be for the KDF only, this, you know, the flagging of the coffins and everything. And they were told that if you bury your person with the flag, the government will later come, you know, to exhume and
get the flag. You know, so there are things that are being said out there that are completely out of line. And I think it's important for us, and we were discussing, to remind Kenyans that this is an opportunity. We are supposed to be extremely lucky and, you know, honored to be living in these times. Because no other generation, this moment has never been there. So what we need to do is to continue encouraging each other and pushing each other forward. I think it was Kindiki who said that, you know, the financiers, fellow criminals, power! Fellow criminals, power! And I remember they were threatening us, I don't know who, the financiers, the organizers, the planners, you know, you will face the consequences. Well, guess what? Hatutishiki, sindio? Nani ameanguka, sini wao ameanguka. So we are saying, you know, this is a moment, and each and every one of us can play a role. The question that we need to ask, what are you doing to bring forward this change?
Okay, Hussein, I'd like to come back to you shortly, but I want to get to Gloria first on the question of the flags and the killings and those who lost the limbs. But Gloria, on the question of people getting arrested for protesting, I remember seeing the first day or the Tuesday, droves and droves of people getting picked up and being put, you know, in police vehicles, carted away to police stations. I want to talk to me about this moment, about what does that moment mean legally, and what was the violation with that moment, and why do we keep seeing it?
Thank you so much, Alan, for that. And I would like to say that the Law Society of Kenya has, that day, it was a sad day for us, because that Tuesday, what happened was we had gone for a memorial for Honorable Monica, who was killed in the hands of the police. And we were called and we were told, we even had not set up the toll-free line for people to call advocates, and we were called that there are some advocates who have been arrested and they're in Central Police Station. And we asked ourselves the pertinent question. That time I remember we were with Steve and Tess, and we asked ourselves the question, why are we going to release only lawyers while people who have been peacefully demonstrating have been arrested? And I think we had a discussion with the president, and she said, yes, let's go bail them out. And I remember when going there, we didn't expect what we saw on that day. So we went to the police station, and we actually asked to be given the list of the people who have been arrested and their charges. And I remember it was a back and forth, and now lawyers from certain groups were called, come, let's release these people. And actually, when they saw lawyers there, they saw us as a threat, because we are going to release the people who have been causing trouble, quote-unquote trouble to them. So when we went there, we tried talking, they tried calling the president and saying, just tell your people to go till 6 p.m. And we asked them, why till 6 p.m.? Has the law been suspended till 6 p.m. that we can only release people after 6 p.m.? And when we demanded to stay with the people who have been arrested in the police station, they threw tear gas at us. I remember even one of our council members, Otto, they threw a canister, the tear gas canister, at her. So the lawyers have been really harassed in this whole process. We saw even the other day in Nanyuki, where they had gone to actually take, because this guy, I think Lewis, they were looking for Lewis, and they were harassing him, going to his home, banging his door. And they decided, okay, let's take him to the police station. And when they went, they were all chased away. Lawyers were chased away, and they were told, no, we want to speak to Lewis alone. And they said no. And it became a commotion. And they started beating the lawyers and chasing them out of the police station. So what does it mean? It is very lawful, especially for what had been happening in the first times of the demonstration, where people were coming out peacefully. They are just with their water bottles, they are just singing, chanting, and they were not causing any kind of fracas. And I think the government had not seen such kind of a thing. They thought everything will be organized, will be uniform, but when they saw large numbers coming, and they were wondering, how can we contain these numbers? Because they thought it will just be like the normal ones, and by 2 p.m. they're at home, or 3 they're at home. So I think we need to defend the Constitution, and we are saying peaceful protesters, And that is the case we have seen all through. Peaceful protesters are being arrested, and that is what we are standing for, that you cannot just be arrested for exercising your right.
Right.
Yeah.
Irungu, to keep up on this space, the police not only threw tear gas, but they were shooting live ammunition, rubber bullets, beating up protesters. But most importantly, we also saw police without uniform, completely face covered up, somehow mingling with the protesters, and the arrest, shoot, and perhaps some of those abductions happen in these moments. I want to ask you about what should the police be doing during protests, and what we just went through, just how illegal this whole is, and what can we do anything about it, or it's just a matter of, well, we reflect and then say, well, that's something bad has really happened, we need to move on.
So the illegalities in terms of policing that we saw over the last month or so did not start then. I think we have to go back to 2023, we have to go back to 2017, and we have to ask, why is it in a point where the state is being challenged on the basis of corruption, on the basis of inequality, on the basis of impunity? Why does the state respond so violently to peaceful protest? And as Amnesty International, we monitored with the Kenya Medical Association and Law Society, and of course many organizations here under the auspices of the Police Reforms Working Group. And we saw the pattern of policing essentially was to destroy the possibility of a peaceful protest. How that starts is commanding officers failing to accept letters of notification. The second thing that happens is you arrest anybody you suspect to be an organizer. Now, what is a protest organizer? A protest organizer is also a marshal. It is the person who makes sure that when we write a letter to the OCS and we say, we are going to move from this point to this point, we are going to approach this government office, and we are going to hand over a petition here. That is the person that controls the crowds. So once you take those two quick actions, you immediately send a protest into confusion. And we have said this so many times to commanding officers, to the more senior police officers, that as soon as you disrupt that process, you have thrown a peaceful protest into something that is not provided for within Article 37. The second stage is to have police officers coming like criminals, either in balaclavas or without identification, or with vehicles that have 4 or 5 license plates, and they embed themselves. They pretend to be protesters in order to arrest protesters, or they pretend to be journalists in order to arrest journalists, or they tear gas medical officers. This is what we saw this time, where we set up pop-up emergency clinics, essentially for medics, volunteers, not even paid by government, to basically provide treatment, not just to protesters, but to bystanders and also police officers, let's not forget. And what happens is you tear gas them, you arrest people like Brandon, you then seize their medical records so that they can't even follow up with patients. And then the question is, for me, is actually who is behaving as if this is a riot? Who is providing the riotous activity? Who are the criminals that need to be prosecuted? So to end this point, I think there are many things that we need to do. We need to crowdsource, identify those officers. We need to bring cases against those particular officers individually, plus their commanding officers, to ensure that they are held accountable, not just for the deaths, not just for the injuries that Hussein has spoken about, but even for the violation of the right to protest and the right to expression. The previous panel spoke about the horror of having people coming to collect them in the middle of the night. That also needs to be prosecuted, because the freedom of expression is what makes us human beings. It is not just that the Constitution protects it, but you are not a human being if you cannot think independently, if you cannot articulate yourself, and if you cannot take action in order to protect a Constitution that we all voted for.
Okay, right. So I want to go back to the point about, and we sort of systematically talk about not just the people, but the role of the flag, as you had brought it up. And my question is this: who owns the Kenyan flag?
Hiyo ni swali rahisi sana. Kenyan flag belongs to the people of Kenya. It's not a government item. It's not. It's ours. When you talk of black, it's us. It's the color of our skin. when you talk of red, it's the blood shed. And we continue to shed to this moment, to this very day. And green is our land, you know? So, I mean, I find it absurd for anyone to even imagine or to tell us that you can't do this. This is a preserve of a few individuals, only the leaders. These are today's mau-maus. When you are Mekufa, we are seated here today having this conversation here at Fungamano in their honor, because they died so that we can be here today. And one thing I want to communicate is that even with the families that we have been going to, you know, you can see that, you know, that resolve and that pride that they have. When you go there with the flag and you're draping the flag over the coffin, and they say, wow, our son did not die for nothing. He didn't just die like that. He died truly fighting for this country. And when you go to the family, when you're handing over the flag, you can actually feel, you know, everyone there holding the mother, the father, the family in pride. So, wasitutishe hiyo tunawaambia, you know, anyone we need to hang. In other countries, people hang these flowers in their backyards. They are there on their doors. And here we are being told that if you display the flag or if you put it sijui, it's an offense. My foot, I mean, we can't have that. Wasitutishie, this is our country, and that is why we need to reclaim. For me, I'm a grassroots person. I'm not much of a talker. But you know, everyone, this is the time. Hakuna kitu yenye hatuwezi fanya. Hata kama kila mtu anataka ice cream, sahi tunaenda tunaambia serikali hiyo tax, nunulia kila mtu ice cream. I mean, you can't tell us anything. So not just the flag, everything, even the emblem. Ukitaka kuvaa kofia uweke nini, it is yours. So hiyo mambo ya kutishana, that fear is gone. When we lose our fear, thank you very much.
Gloria, same question. What is this problem with flag, and why do we have this sense of belief, and especially the security forces and the guys who run government, that they own this item, exclusively theirs?
Sorry?
They think they own this item. It's a government product.
One, we need to remember it's a symbol of this country. And if it was illegal, I think I'll be the first one in this place, Kushikwa.
Some illegalities
I have used it, yes, I have used it as a lesson, but not necessarily, but showing my patriotism to this country. We walk around with the bracelets, the Kenyan bracelets, but it has never been a problem. Okay. Everyone in the UK, you can identify a Kenyan from one when you just see that bracelet. But right now, when we are using it at this time, it becomes a problem. Then I think we are not the problem, they are the problem, and I think they should deal with it. And this is just speaking because we see people putting the flags on their cars. Right now, they're even ashamed of putting those flags in their cars because we will flag them that tutaanguka now. So I think it is not a problem right now. And carrying your flag is patriotism. They did it very proudly, and now we are the ones saying we the people are taking it proudly, and we are carrying our flags, and let them know that we have the power in our hands. And I think one of them, the symbol, is our flag.
Mm-hmm. Irungu, same question, and I will come to the audience to get some reactions to it, and also we are doing this on Space and live on NTV as well, so we'll go to that to get your comments, and this is our conversation. Irungu, the same question really about this piece of item, the flag.
Let me step back and then come back to the flag. So in a crisis, all nations have three choices. The first is to twist towards constitutionalism, the second is to twist towards authoritarianism, and then the third choice is anarchy. Now, what this movement has done has twisted towards constitutionalism. In constitutionalism, there are things that are non-negotiable. One of the non-negotiables is the Constitution, that all our actions, all our thoughts are captured in that place that we call a Bill of Rights. And it is clear to me when I saw those crowds marching with constitutions and police officers without a single constitution among them, but with batons, I began to see the righteousness of what was happening on our streets. Consider that in a context where the state wants to disenfranchise you, the first thing it will do is it will tell you there are certain symbols of patriotism of nationhood that do not belong to you. The flag does not belong to you. It is okay if you don't take a voter's card, or you lose your ID and don't bother to get another one, or you don't volunteer in a school clinic, in a school nearby you, or you do not volunteer in a clinic to oversee a public resource that keeps our people safe and dignified, or you don't volunteer at all. That is what a state tries to do, to remove that section in the Constitution that has expressed itself so loud in the last 3 weeks, and that is Article 1. If you do not seize this moment, not just as I think it was the president who spoke about this. If we do not seek this moment, if we do not grab this moment as a moment for the third liberation, then we are going to squander this moment more generally. So I would say to those cabinet secretaries that are waiting, that are lobbying, and perhaps if they follow the same route that they took in 2027 and 22, that are beginning to put money together to buy a cabinet secretary seat, if they do not come with new ways of working, then consider they have come to reap where they did not sow. And they are coming essentially not to build on this constitutional movement, but to take us back to a place that we did not want to do. So wear your flag. If necessary, have a flag, have an outfit made from the flag, and let's walk around with underwear, trousers, t-shirts, and jackets.
Okay, great. Let's get a reaction from space. I think Masika is online. Masika, could you tell us what your reflections of this protest were? And then I will come to the audience here to get their reflections as well.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate. I hope I'm audible enough.
You're great.
Yeah, so I really appreciate that we are having the Citizen Assembly, and one of the key things that we note clearly is that things have changed, times have changed. We are no longer in the olden days. I was listening that bit on the police and the police upholding the law. And maybe one of the things that the LSK can be helping us to know, because I think the police are enforcing the law, but they don't know the law. Because when you ask a police officer why they are arresting you, some of them clearly do not know even the procedure of arresting, whether you're a criminal or a suspect or something like that. Do they have it in their curriculum? Because these guys go in the training camps to do martial arts, to do work on how to use batons, to beat up people. But when you ask a police officer to uphold the law when they are arresting you, do they have the knowledge of applying that law? So for me, that has been a question, because the problem with the police begins at the time of recruitment, because you look at even the people that the recruiters are looking for, then you clearly know that is where the rain starts beating us. Me personally, I did very well in O-level, and I wanted to join the police, but I was removed from the line because I was told that I needed to go to university and study. But I needed to become a police officer, whether I started as a serviceman and then later on be promoted, but they refused because of my grade in Form 4. So one of the things that we need to push, even as right now, because our voices are being heard, and this is how it's going to be, can we have anybody, even if I got an A in Form 4 and I want to become a police officer, I be allowed to become a police officer at whatever level I'm beginning? Because we have graduates who got A's and they do not have jobs and they're doing border work. So if I got an A and I want to become a police officer, they should allow me to join the forces. Because one of the things that we are battling with is some of the guys that I'm not saying that if you scored less in Form 4, you don't have brains, but clearly most of the people that we meet in the police and they are arresting you, you can clearly tell that they do not even have the ability to engage with you and tell you why they are arresting you. They just come using muscles and power. So I think the police do not have the knowledge of the same law they follow only commands that they are given. So when you say you're doing a peaceful demonstration according to Article 37 and you're not destroying any property, is that police officer who is arresting you aware that there's such Article 37 in the Constitution? Because that is where the rain begins beating us. Can we have the law, part of the law trained to the police officers who enforce the law. And then arrest, I want to think, arrest should be done in the open, and somebody should be notified, because we are having abductions and the police are picking people from the street and their homes. Can we have, if you arrest me, please allow me to notify my family members that you have arrested me and where are you taking me? So as I finish on that police thing, I think the failure of the police starts at the place where you're recruiting them, and it also continues because of the curriculum they use to train the police officers. And then when I come on the flag thing, the flag is a national symbol. The same way we sing national anthems. I have a national anthem on my phone as the ringtone. Why am I not being questioned? The Constitution, I think, is Article 9 just says national symbols. It says the coat of arms, the national anthem, the flag. It is patriotism for me to put on, like somebody is saying, I can even do an underwear showing the national flag. It is the love of my country and the symbols that represent my country. So I think on the flag thing, it's an intrusion. We can use the flag in whichever way, as long as we are not disrespecting it. We're just using it to show the love that we have for the country.
Thank you very much. I need to hand over the microphone to one person next, then I come back here. Sylvia Ngati. Sylvia, if you can take 1 minute and give us your reflection as well. Do I still have Sylvia? All right, meanwhile, let me just give the gentleman here the microphone. Please say your name, stand up, say your name and tell us what your reflections are.
Thank you very much. Comrades power. Power. Now I want us to do it a little differently. When I say people power, you say our power. People power. Our power. People power. Our power. Our power. People power. I want to make quick reflections. My name is Musila John Muisio, and I coordinate a social movement. This is the Activista movement. But I'm equally a member of the Kibera Social Justice Center. And there is a panel that came just before your panel, and these guys were speaking there, Billy, Nadia, and the other. And all they did before was to be on social media. They just used to tweet on things that pleases them. And for the first time, being on social media attracted problems to them, that they were abducted and all that. And I wanted to ask them a question, and I think I still need to ask a question to the room. Would they have seen themselves in a state that they've seen themselves, or found themselves now? And the obvious answer could have been no. If it were me or Apiolal and a few others, being arrested today will not be a scare to us, because we've been on the streets a number of times. Some of us have been arrested and all that. What has really happened with this movement, it has redefined what human rights defense is. This is not a career. Human rights defense is everyone's call to be an active citizen and demand service, demand accountability from its government. And so when I see young people today, every day spending every second on social media to just speak on issues of accountability from their government, I am so elated, because it is no longer about a few who held the title human rights defense. But before I sit down, I want to make another just quick reflection. You've seen just the other day that the opposition joined the president to try and protect their interest. In 1975, before J.M. Kariuki was killed, he made a very simple statement that Kenya had become a country of 10 millionaires and 10 million beggars. Now today, the beggars have united against the millionaires of this country. And all they are saying, enough of you taking advantage of us. And it started very simply by rejecting the finance bill. So my last statement, smart as I sit down. The framers of the Constitution 2010, and I will read because I have posted it on my Twitter, said but a few things. That the greatest threat to liberty in Kenya is an all-powerful central government, where only a few dictate the many. We've seen what the president has done in even curtailing the powers of our National Assembly, our legislature, which is a separate wing of government that should be holding this same executive to account. And this is because he is taking us back to an all-powerful central government, which the constitution actually is against. But they were equally very cautious to realize that the rule of the mob, which is unguided at times, will lead to anarchy and, in the end, despotism. I know as a country that respects its constitution, we wouldn't want to get there. So as we've been pushing, we are equally very cautious not to allow anyone an excuse to say, I turned this country into a military state because the mob did not want to be guided. I turned this country into a dictatorship because the mob insisted into it. So we are pushing, demanding for good governance, demanding for accountability. We are not relenting because, as always, people power is greater than the people in power. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. Just give the microphone to the gentleman in a suit at the back.
Thank you. Viva, comrade, viva. Viva. Amandla. Yes. Thank you so much. Comrade, I just have an observation in form of a question. That, of course, we are doing well with the national government. But there's a group of people who are really devolved and in touch with our people, or the patriots in the villages, back in the counties. I was saying that, comrades, let's not forget the counties. That is the people who are also interacting with our people back there in the villages. So after this struggle come from the national, we go back to the county government so that we fight this nepotism and fight for transparency and accountability. I want specifically to appreciate Aki Africa. I was there, smart, I'm traumatized up to date. This guy is so quiet, I don't know what he's using, I'm shocked. They took me to a mortuary, I ran away with this gentleman during Rex and Evans postmortem. I don't know you are made of what. All those parents were crying on their chests. I was shocked to see them still walking. I was shocked on the hardest day of the strike. You know, on Thursday, few people came. They among the few who came, and Shakira and the rest, now to notify us and to get us very, very easy on Thursday. I remember those guys were going to an extent of tear gassing where people were being treated. You are just wondering, what kind of human being is this? This is a place where people are now being treated, please. And they're even going ahead to tear gas a petrol station. We are at the corner of the total there. It was quite unfortunate. Please, comrades, the question I wanted to ask with care and with utmost humility, how can we organize this struggle in a way that we don't lose the gains made and we don't lose the focus? Because if we end up in the morning, someone is saying we fight for this, fight for that, fight for this, fight for positions, then we are going to lose this focus, and these guys are going to run away with all the gains that we have done, what? We have made. So I was just pleading with those in the panel, if you can guide the conversation to a clear focus. Because now there are also political rivals who are taking advantage of this thing. Like someone is planning to vie for 2027. What is the next thing? 20 to Salami and Ani. You are getting? Not for the struggle, but for the narrow, self-seeking interest. That was my plea. Otherwise, Aki Africa, may God bless you. And I'm pleading, colleagues who are seated there, how can you debrief? I'm a teacher by profession. Some people who came for the struggle didn't even know the road. I was shocked, someone asking me, amefika Ngara and wapi barabara ya kwenda Kabete. You can tell you. When we are taking that roundabout to Nyayo, wale waliangusha fence, those who are falling down, wale waliona, they are still, I still feel the smell of blood mpaka saizi. So how can we debrief these people by counseling them? Because some people may also turn violent after this one. Because some wengine wako wamezoea that kind of exposure. I remember one girl alitoka tu nyuma tu akaanza kupiga kelele na nduru, watu wakimfuata. Watu wakimfuata tu nyuma tu. Ni kama ako possessed. So how can you also organize that we have centers, we communicate, where these people can come and we get guidance and counseling. May God bless the struggle.
Thank you. Can you take your brief as well and keep it a minute or less?
Yes, I'll make it very brief. Comrades power. Comrades power. Now, I want us to trace the bullet that was in David Chege's head. back to the trigger, to the magazine, to the command, Adamson Bugay, to Japheth Kome, and we make it very clear where the accountability stops. My point is this: the person who is ultimately responsible.
Eliminate them out of the competition.
Yes. Thank you so much. So I want to go one step back and look at the Constitution. So when we inaugurated the Constitution, what we did was that we changed who has power. We clarified that, we the people, right? And what's happening now and what you're seeing in this movement, we want to now define and clarify what power does, because now it's clear who has the power, we the people. And going forward, this movement continues to clarify, what power does. Now, what we need to do going forward, I think, this is my opinion, is that we need to make being in public or being in public office so undesirable for somebody who doesn't like to be made accountable. So undesirable such that the only people who get attracted to those offices are people who are open and are willing to account. And that's the biggest problem that we have with corruption. And that's the biggest problem that we have with the police and so on and so forth. Now, one question before I go, and this is a question to the panel. I'd like to understand, we are the children of Kibaki. We came, this generation millennials and Generation Z. We came with a free education, and I said this in my TED talk a few years back, that we have had a 360-degree Kenyan experience. Unlike our parents, we have the full consciousness of feeling Kenyan. Many of us don't even speak our mother tongue, or our primary languages are national languages. We have lived everywhere in the country, and we have a full 360-degree Kenyan experience. With also digital media, it has culminated with this consciousness of political consciousness. Now the question is, how can we, going forward, manage this movement? We know that part of the reason why we are seeing many changes is also because we have a debt issue. And the cancelling of the financial bill, and also we've seen that Moody's has also downgraded our credit rating, and we will have a problem with money. And usually when there's austerity and a problem with money, the regime might use that as an excuse to bring some sort of social injustice by denying services to the people who are most needy with the excuse that we don't have money, right? And some reforms can be difficult to push through because the president will say we don't have money. So how are we going to continue making the government accountable, but also waking up the debt issue and managing our country through this very difficult situation? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I wanted to start with you, but let me start with Hussein because it's just about to drop off. Hussein, could you just give a quick reaction of what you had?
Thanks, Matt. And I apologize because I have to dash out to go to the mosque. But I want to agree with Musila John. I think all of us have to be and to make a resolve to become human rights defenders. I think for many years, we've been out there for many years. You're actually protesting, you're protesting on an issue that affects every citizen. And you actually see people in the pavement just watching what you're doing. That has been the culture, that has been the tradition in Kenya for years. But right now, and we have to give credit where it's due, Gen Zs, it doesn't matter what your background is. Awendu ambaye mtetezi tutete, they're saying they are the watetezi. Kila mtu, and we have to give credit to the Gen Zs because they've stood up and they've said we will take back our country. You know, some of us, we've been arrested, we've been beaten, we've been blacklisted, but then people would just come back and tell you, great, you're doing good work, and continue. And like, isn't this your country? So for the Gen Zs, for that change, we give credit where it's due, and we tell you hongera, and let's keep on with that. The second point was on debriefing, my brother, very, very true, particularly for the families. We've really been trying to work with the Kenya, I think, Association of Counselors and Mama Kennedy, particularly, for example, the 12-year-old boy who was killed. He had actually asked to go and pick a book, he was supposed to do his homework. One of, I don't know, if you look at the artwork that he does, and the mother keeps looking, and we have to remind ourselves of what has happened. The 16-year-old, the mother is so devastated. I mean, some of us, tunasema, we are in this, but those families that have been affected, please, if you're near a family, if you're near someone who is injured or who has been affected, please reach out. This is the time for us to stand firmly together. You ask yourself, what can I do? There is so much you can do. Just going to visit someone and telling them, umeumia kwa niaba yetu, asante sana, that can make a whole world of difference. So let's be there for each other. Let's be our brothers and sisters keepers. And last but not least, I think we were in one of the funerals, Boniface Mwangi said, let's replace the pictures of the president with the flag. But I think this addition is extremely important, the Constitution. So the flag and the Constitution is what each and every person should have hanging somewhere in our house, not the president's photo. I mean, and we have LSK here. Could you please confirm to us that it is not illegal to have a picture or the Constitution somewhere in your house or in your business? Is it illegal? It is not illegal. So we make a resolve here today, the Ufungamano resolve, that we remove the picture of the president and we put the picture of the flag and of the Constitution of Kenya, and those shall be what we refer to as symbols of national unity. Thank you very much, and I apologize. If you could release me so that I can go for prayers.
Thank you very much, Hussein, and thank you very much for your comments. A round of applause for Hussein as he leaves the panel, please. Please.
I think I'll first respond. The first person asked of the rights of arrested persons and if the police actually do know the rights of arrested persons. I do believe that in their training, it's very extensive that the police actually know the rights of arrested persons and they are taught in their schools or whatever trainings they do. What I think they do is they deliberately choose not to put that into practice. We have had the president here saying they have had trainings among trainings among trainings. And we are saying we don't want trainings anymore. The police have been trained enough and they know. But what they are doing is following a command. And that's what we see. When we go to the police station, I remember even the other day when I was speaking to lawyers, I was telling them, people do not know actually of their right to remain silent when they are actually arrested by the police officers. And this is something I think we should pick up. And we have been saying that human rights defenders and only lawyers are the ones to defend the Constitution. But remember, this was passed by each and every one of us in 2010. And one of it was Article 49, where when you're arrested by a police officer, they are supposed to identify themselves and tell you why they are arresting you. I saw Bonnie laughing here because it is not known in Kenya. So I think it's about time that we take a stand, that we say when you arrest us, you tell us. We have seen now when we said reject finance bill, imeangushwa. Or we have said we need to see a change in leadership, imeangushwa. So I think it's about time that we also bring awareness and let the police know that we are watching. When you arrest us, you're not telling us why you're arresting us. And let us gather and all of us, let's go and defend this person and say they were not given their right to be told of the offense they were charged, they have been arrested with, and they are not being given, we have had here crazy Nairobian saying he refused to give his passwords. Naka walimsalimia vizuri sana. And we are saying it was his right to remain silent. So it's also, I think, it calls upon also the law society and the civil societies also to teach people of their rights when they are arrested. When the police officer asks you a question, you do not have to respond. When they tell you to do statements, you do not have to, because it is your constitutional right. And right now, we even fear of telling people it is your constitutional right to remain silent, because when they remain silent, we don't know if they are going to die, them exercising their rights or what. But we need to remember, they cannot kill all of us. They cannot kill all of us. And we are not going to do the police work. Yes. We are not going to to do police work because they're the ones who are supposed to do investigations, not us help them with investigations when they arrest us. So that is also a right. So I think it's good that we hold them accountable. Yeah. And I think one of the things also they said, we need also to hold individual police officers accountable. I think it has not been done enough in Kenya for police actually to know when you violate or threaten to violate a right for a citizen, you can actually be held accountable. I saw in the Twitter spaces, Baby Pendo, the case was being done, I think was it last week, where Willis was saying those police officers were begging not to be arraigned in court and take plea. This is what we need to see in Kenya. And not after so many years. We have seen from when Baby Pendo died, this is the time they are being taken to court. I think those are the issues we need to hold accountable. The ones who will be held accountable for all this protest and whatever is happening, what we need to ask is quick investigation and them being arraigned in court. Because when we go to the streets, tukishikwa, tunapelekwa immediately, where the investigation, the 1-year inquiry and things like that. I think that is what we need to stand on, and I think we need to stand on business on that and keeping the government accountable.
All right, thank you. Irungu, would you wind this list on for us?
So when Denzel Washington saw Will Smith slap the other comedian, he made this comment where he said, "Be careful. At your point of triumph, it is when the devil comes for you." I think for this movement, those words are important. There could be a temptation at this moment to rest, to even become egotistical and to gloat. But we have to recognize that what we're up against is not even individuals. It is a system that is built around the idea that only a few can take decisions on behalf of the many. That idea is unlawful in our Constitution because Chapter 1 tells us that it is the people that have the power. The problem is that we have a country that is not designed around our Constitution. And we have a Constitution that continues to look for a country that actually reflects the constitutional values in that Constitution. So my word to this movement is to remain inside of the soul that you generated for this country. And that soul was courage, lawfulness, patriotism, and a sense of purpose. So we have to think very carefully about how do we dismantle a system so that other people do not come and confuse us, at the same time keeping the same system that we were worried about. So we have to think about a number of things. As we challenge or as we rebelled against a taxation bill, that taxation bill has to be generated again. We hope it will be a new one. But the question is, are we there at the table to demand what will be in that taxation bill? Do we understand the cycle of budgeting? Because whether it be at the county level or whether it be at the national level, that budgeting process will happen. And the people that you have now challenged, they are waiting for you to go back to sleep. They are waiting for you to think you have won so that they can produce another budget that pays tenderpreneurs and creditors, foreign creditors, before it thinks about Kenyans. They are waiting for you to sleep so that they can change the police personnel, transfer a few people, and have the same violence come back a year or a few months from now. So I think what we have to do is be diligent and think about what are the propositions, what are the ideas that we are organizing around, and make those ideas so strong and so powerful that it's not just one generation who will fight for them, but our father's generation, our mother's generation will also fight for them. And just for that message, just for that point, a few days ago I got a text from a former freedom fighter, and he reminded me that that was the reason that they went to the forests, to have a generation rise up and take back their country when they felt that they had lost their country. More power. More power. More power. The Gen Zs are not orphans. They have parents who protect them, who gave them money, who are so proud of them today. But let me just say that they are grandparents also that have seen what is capable of this generation and are now looking forward to that alpha generation to see what will come next. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. A better applause for the panel, Gloria and Irungu Houghton. Thank you very much. You've all done very well. Really appreciate your time and your thoughts. Allow me now to welcome for the transitional period before we get to the next panel, the President of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, Dr. Peter Maynard, to take a minute or less to give us some reflections. A round of applause, please, for Dr. Maynard. You're next. Yeah?
Goyodera.
Okay.
Reverend Goyodera.
D'accord. You can use this. Hey, how are you? Sure. You can use the podium.
He wants you to make some remarks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Asante Sana for the very warm welcome. I'm Peter Maynard. I'm president of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association, which is a group of 56 jurisdictions around the world, including Kenya. And I had intended to visit Kenya some time ago, and so I thought it would be appropriate to come now, also before the meeting of the Law Society of Kenya elections. No to police brutality. No to extrajudicial killings and abductions. Those are some of the fundamental principles of the Commonwealth Lawyers Association. Our objectives are simply to uphold human rights, the rule of law, access to justice, and the independence of judges and lawyers. And so I make just 2 points, that we have observed the situation with great concern, and in solidarity with the Law Society of Kenya, we have also issued a statement, a statement condemning the arrest, abduction, and killing of civilians. I wish to say that we are supportive of the Constitution and the rule of law. I encourage you all to continue to recognize the importance. You see, Kenya, from an outsider's perspective, Kenya has one of the most progressive constitutions in the world. But constitutions are just words. It's important for individuals, institutions, both government as well as protesters, to continue to recognize and implement the Constitution. My perspective is a little different in Kenya. I am inspired by my late grandmother, who was born on a slave plantation. She was raised by her grandmother because her father had been killed by the colonial authorities, and also her mother had gone away to look for work. And so I have been raised in a den of human rights activists. We have recognized the importance for economic transformation and also political transformation. And so as a teenager, I came to Kenya for the first time, because Kenya has been an inspiration to the Global South and continues to be an inspiration to the Global South. And I encourage you to continue that, because economic transformation will come through you. And so we also are concerned with making the CLA, my organization, fit for purpose, and particularly fit for the purpose of transforming the Global South, fit for economic transformation, fit for political transformation. And so I commend the human rights activists among you. I commend the Law Society of Kenya and the judges. You've had the CG Emeritus, is a very admirable figure. The President incumbent is also very admirable. And so, in this challenging time, I encourage everyone to remember constitutionalism, to continue to give meaning to a very effective and powerful Constitution of Kenya, to continue to give effect to the rule of law. After all, we are after economic transformation, political transformation, in a setting of constructive dialogue, constructive engagement. Rule of law and governance are so very important. Understanding human rights and also human rights obligations. They're both sides, rights and obligations are so important. So with that, let me say thank you for having me here. I'm learning more and more from this very constructive session. And the Commonwealth Law Association continues to be in solidarity with the judges, with the lawyers, with human rights activists. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maynard. Really appreciate it. Okay, all right. Let me welcome Cricket Rights to come give us the first interlude for the entertainment, then we go to the next panel. Cricket Rights, where you at?
So tutaunganisha stima, tutaunda barabara, tutajenga serikali na vijana ya bodaboda na mama mboga. So akaka slogan ikakasha goa goa. Mr. President ni Ruto, gani unatupeleka? Kusema education ni free na vile books ni expensive, ni ku-exercise our minds. Kusema education ni free, na jana kuna mtu yalisare shule juu alikosa uniform, ni ku-exercise our minds. So unafilaje? Unafilaje saa zenye urezo wako na kuongoza national anthem na tujenge taifa? Alafu Korogosho, Madhare, kwa jenga wanabomolewa. Gunshot na sauti za tinga kwa mwananchi amenyeshewa zinafanya hearts zao even more wetter. Alafu kuna sauti na ring kwa mind, mukinichagua hakuna kijana atapigwa risasi tena, mukinichagua hakuna mwananchi atabomolewa tena. Lakini Mkenya, soma story ya Jaramogi, utagundua Kenya bado hakuna wrong history kwa classes. Ndio maana youths legacy ya msteka Steve wajui. Kazi tu ni biko. December 12 tuna celebrate Jamhuri Day, but story ya December 12 movement nani anainarrate? Mkenya, pambana. Time ina fly na Daily Nation ni propaganda za orezo kwa flights kujaribu kuland jobs kwa youths. Nation ni sick, hata doctors wako mgomo. Hakuna budget ya kulipa doctors, but kuna budget ya unconstitutional CASs at cost. The Star News Bulletin, Mwakenya nilikeji kina Karemi wanatumia kupass exams za history yenye stories za kina Karari Ndudhu zimepigwa njama na kuarrest kama role ya women kwa Maumau, Zakayo, Maleza, uende. So policies walitaipa alafu zikasainwa na ball pen, na hapo ndio tulichezwa. Koti wakapiga perfume na expectaji wataheshimu court order. 21st century bado gava inatumia unga ku bribe nation kuvote. Mkulima wa kahawa na go loss after sales juu kutoa chai. So nani haoni Kenya bado hakuna. Nani hata articulate article 1 ya constitution vifiti? All sovereign power, the people The people ni set flani ya rulers wa protect wealth kwao. Sunday wamekrama Apostles Creed, alafu Monday greed in our drive na testimonies za vile 7 days without prayer inawafanya weak. Wewe hujasikia kiongozi wa Wanga alikuwa na bongo na bado alikuwa deceived na sweets. Mambo leo still ni ukoloni, believe me, hata Mugabe angekuwa Kenyan hangetaka anyone amuite roba ama ni roba. So tunaishi na country whereby the president anapenda the youth but most strategic jobs anapea the old, na kwa hiyo mood still awari. Country yenye ina constitution kama ni leadership nachagua humanity kwa leader wangu. Juu kama leadership ni school degrees na certificates, basi hadi zile karatasi za Waititu zilikuwa true. Ni Fedi na Dali misinterpret. So pieces mob za peace wasanii wanaandika lakini bado hana amani. Kiongozi mwananchi alichagua already anamfichia white. Already ana stock ya ngano ya kubandika posters time ya campaign na Turkana tunakufa njaa. Wanjiku hawezi afford kwa Rimona mkulima wa roskoko na majani chai. Analia njaa toka time ya Nyayo. Afya center ni kama base fulani ya viongozi waendea snacks. Docs ni less, hospitals ni less na zenye ziko hazina madawa. Doc ana complain of protective gears ndio anatekechea ya 4M la last time. Nurses wali strike ni jana. Si wages zinafanya mwalimu kuata kidato. Si wages zina donatives ku evicted Kariobangi, Mokuru na Ruai. Unanyomoke Ruai ginya hakiri. So equality iko wapi time kuna mwenye nchi kare na kona aneka ya parking na neka smoking zone na parking large kuliko chuo fulani iko Korogosho, Dandora na Madhare. Equality iko wapi time kuna mwenye nchi Karen akona aneka ya parking na neka smoking zone na parking large kuliko chuo fulani iko Korogosho, Madhare na Dandora. So tunataka police service ya police force. Utumishi kwa wote, si utumisi kwa kara wengine. Jukara wengine ni same na photographers kila time they've got a clear shot. Makara wengine ni kama kwa class walitoa sura viatu vile wamekuwa sharp shooters. Tulienda recruitment za makarao alafu tukaambiwa tuko na shida ya macho. Alafu after kutembea station tukapata afande amevaa miwani. So niambieni nani alifunga mwingine macho ama tulifungwa macho juu tulikosa za macho. So naitwa cricket rights. Naitwa Cricket Rights. Mnaweza ni follow at Cricket Rights kila platform pale YouTube. Tuzidi kusababisha, si ndio? Organize. Sasa comrades relax. Hawa wasanii nataka kuleta hapa next. Nimesikia ni wasanii wa smart kukuliko baba, so relax kidogo. Nimesikia ni wasanii wanaitwa wa Douglas wanakuja kuwa anguka nayo.
Najishasikia hata ni kushow kwanza form ya Didon. Nishashika mpoa na twende chini kwa chini akiwa adi na mini. Sasa tunasikiza Shin City tuna feel free. Take a video no post pale NGC. Jina ni content kurap ni challenge. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Check it. Anguka nayo twende down low now. Stand up to your feet mikono juu alafu click. Tuliza pesa alafu one lege. Anguka nayo. One lege anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo kama umefeel relaxed. Anguka nayo kama uko na new culture. Anguka nayo kama patina magwasha. Anguka nayo Anguka nayo. Katika msupa webanjuka. Cheza chini kikongeza maduza. Anguka nao baby girl shaitika. Dagi matisha wa Douglas babe. Ama Douglas tambu serikali. Juni serikali tamka asali. Mnajua ni nani? Flow shabiki. Ndemeduka hapo naoni shi. Kutekewa kwa daily meeting. Anguka nayo. Anguka check it. Anguka nayo pulo DJ. Anguka nayo check it.
Pull up tena, selector, DJ. Atuanguke nayo.
Thank you. All right, all right. Okay, all right, all right. So let's get to our second panel. Quite some business to do. We should have DJ. So this is what we're going to do. I've been instructed, this is the instructions I've been given. When I call the panelists, wanakuja wakianguka nayo. Comrades, true or true? True or true? Our first panelists for the afternoon. DJ with it. Ladies and gentlemen, Nayo. Help me welcome to the stage Nadia Mukami. Thank you very much. Our to the Reverend, who's going to join us in the second half. But all right, let's start the discussions. Here's what we need to do, friends. This moment has demanded something, right? He's demanded that.
My knees are appreciative of Gen Z. Hiyo kazi si rahisi. Kuanguka nayo. And I'm just glad to be alive to witness this again. And it's reminded me of why I became a lawyer in the first place. In the 90s, when I was in high school, I got my first copy of the Constitution from Maina Kiai. And I witnessed all these people getting tear gassed, getting locked up, trying to run away from the cops, Reverend Joya getting beaten up. And I asked myself forward, because the fact of the matter is that this movement is based on the rule of law. And I've seen that from the tweets, from the protests. Everybody was careful who was involved in the Gen Z protest to abide by the rule of law. And so it follows that the next steps are also guided and informed by the rule of law. The president has sent home his cabinet. And I'm very, very proud of that singular step of sending everybody home, especially the fact that the Minister for Interior was a lawyer and presided over the abductions, the killing, disappearance, and abuse of human rights. And he had the opportunity to actually cement Article 37 of our Constitution and abide by it, but the opportunity was lost on him. So the opportunity for you and for us all as Kenyans is to ensure that the weakest link, which has been Parliament, needs to be in check. Because remember, when the vetting of the new cabinet secretaries happens, it's going to be happening at Parliament. So who is going to sit, who is going to sift, who is going to analyze? Of course, there will be much more involvement by the citizenry, because it's obvious we've taken back our power, and people will be able to say, this is who we want. We want individuals who have been subjected to the provisions of Chapter 6 of the Constitution. That is non-negotiable. And going forward, vetting should not be just a by the way, because it's a foregone conclusion. It's just been like I'm looking for the words, but you know what I'm saying, that it's just been, we're majority in Parliament, we're going to pass these names, we're just rubber stamping, we're not looking at the qualification of these people, so that's important going forward, that's what's going to happen. Secondly, what does Kenya look like now going forward? There's a recall of MPs still on the table. I know Kabete constituency have started a process. There's nothing that's stopping the citizenry from collecting signatures even as we speak. So those are processes that should actually be going forward. And the fact that people have shown interest in the finance bill, there should be bigger interest on the appropriations bill, which is now an act.
Nothing stops the PSs who are still in office, who are accounting officers, from committing the budget. Absolutely nothing. So there's still a lot to be done. Eternal vigilance is the price of democracy. We cannot get tired. I must say here that I'm very, very proud of the work that Faith Odhiambo, the Law Society of Kenya, council members are doing. And civic education is important. So beyond saying that something will be done, let's be involved in how it will be done.
Right, and I want to move that along on the how. But Nadia, for you, what do you want to see happen next?
What do I want?
What do you want to see happen next?
We've kept talking about accountable governance for a very, very, very long time. And I will use my example. When we were getting into this industry, I mean the music industry, when you have a name, you have status, you weren't able to publicly call out a vice, call out, let's say, a leader for something they haven't done. For the first time in history, you've seen artists, you've seen influencers in the front line. Because sometimes when we sign contracts, sometimes you're told you shouldn't associate yourself with anything that is happening in the country. But for the first time, even as one of the things that I base off my career, I never want to talk about politics. But for the first time, I remember hiyo siku ya maandamano ya kwanza, nilikuwa huko, nimeangushwa, niko na hadi alama up to date. So for me, it's about accountable governance. And someone said from the X space, we need to make it so unbearable for anyone who's getting into any public office to hold the office space if you do not like accountability. So anyone that is getting into office has to be ready to be questioned, to be asked, because we are the bosses. So si eti kila siku tumekopa sijui how many billions every single day, or we are being taxed, taxes. The other day I was checking bei ya tissue paper. The last time, like, nikikuwa Mwehoko, me I'm from Mwehoko, it was 15 shillings. Sai tissue paper, hakuna tissue paper hata ya 20 shillings. The cost of living inaendelea ikipanda as a day goes by. So, kwa nini tunakuwa, like, vitu zinakuwa expensive, but the salary ni the same? You understand? Like, kama wewe ulikuwa unauza, nitasema aje, kama tusema ulikuwa uko na biashara yako, the moment you start raising your prices because what you're purchasing with imepanda bei, like the supplier price imepanda bei. So wewe ukiongezea customers wako, inakuwa ni ngumu for them to come back. You understand? So for me, it's about accountable governance. Let us hold every single person accountable. Yes.
All right. Accountable. Steve.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Is one thing I can say, Alan, what is happening now is what our fathers began in so many years ago. And along the way, they lost the momentum. And I think that is how we found ourselves, because the war to bring in a new constitution is a struggle that has been there for a long time. And the day the constitution was being promulgated on 10th of August 2010, the whole Africa, the whole world praised Kenya for a very progressive constitution. Everybody knew that now Kenya is politically, economically, and socially liberated. The president of Kenya, Dr. Samuel Ruto, when he was campaigning on the mantra of socio-economic justice. Article 43 of the Constitution was his anchor. When he was speaking to the youth about job employment, when he was speaking to the Mamamboga about improving their livelihood, when he was speaking to the Boda Boda rider, who is a youth, about empowerment, he was addressing Article 43. Then what have we noticed? No one is bothered about adherence to the rule of law. What they are doing is to pull things toward themselves. What do I expect to see? Scrapping off of the NGCDF, we need to do away with that unconstitutional fund, which has turned our parliamentarians to become executive puppets. Doing away with bursaries and pumping the money to the education sector. Everybody to have an equal right, because they use these goodies to buy us off, to buy our parents off. So we want to ensure that they stop assuming that we have to go and knock their doors and queue at the CDF offices, begging to get money to go to school, yet Article 43 talk about my right to education. So these are the expectations we want to see. So as it sends away the cabinet, we want to see very serious reforms, and that's why this call for serious reform is not ending, and we are not stopping, because we are coming for the throats of these parliamentarians metaphorically, because look at what happens at the Senate. They dropped the bill for the conflict of interest. Why? Because they want to continue tendering for the government. Some years back, nobody wanted to supply to the government because nobody used to be paid. Right now, they are running that cartel. That is what we want to stop. That is a Kenya we want, where everyone has an equal chance. Everyone, when you are arrested, you have a right to representation. Police respect the rule of law. Everybody respect the rule of law, because that is the equalizer for everyone, because the rule of law is better than the rule of man.
Thank you, thank you. Reverend, the same question. Can you help us figure out from where you sit, what should be these actual next steps? What would you like to see? What should we all sort of collectively try to figure out and say, this is what we think should happen?
Hi, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes, sir. Sorry, I wasn't introduced. My name is Gowi Odera. There are a couple of things we need to be able to recognize, James, what we are up against in this movement. One is that the president, as real colors have come out, even in his campaign, we need to recognize that a leopard does not change its spots. In the early 90s, when we were doing our clamor, we were here in Ufungamano, he wasn't here. He was part of YK2. And they were the part of our generation that were co-opted by Moi with money. When we were doing the constitution and clamor for constitution, he voted no. In fact, he said that ni kama karatasi ya kufunga nyama. So constitutionalism is not part and parcel of those who are in office. So that is what we are up against. The second thing what we're up against is a culture, all right? A culture that does not necessarily value hard work and a meritocracy in itself. So Gen Z are trying to say, we are putting in all this effort to get what we want. Now we are seeing people wakivuka line and getting there without even earning what they are. And lastly, I think a thing that we have, and the panelists have said, is accountability. And I think those are the three things we need to continue championing moving forward. What Gen Z, I'd like to be able to encourage this group of young people, this generation of young people, is recognize that this is actually a marathon. This is not a sprint. And so there are certain gains we need to make. And I think there's somewhere we need to celebrate what we have gained these past 3 weeks. And we need to celebrate that. In as much as some of our comrades have fallen, we need to celebrate this. This is a great thing, that a government can withdraw a finance bill is a big accomplishment that I'd like to celebrate what these young people have done. It is something I am proud of you. We are proud of you. And you've done something my own generation was not courageous as you to do. And you have taken this to another level.
So just to your point, as I come back to this, there's two problems here that we have to contend with. There is the question of dialogue that keeps being bandied about. I want you to speak about this question of dialogue. And then at the tail end of this process, it's a political process. So there has to be a reasoning on how the public engages politically, because those changes have to happen in a political construct where the politicians have the experience more than anyone else.
So the issue of dialogue is who is dialoguing. So the referee cannot be the player. James, the referee can't be the player. And so you don't have the credibility. Now, the institution that I am part of, the church, has lost its credibility too. Yeah. When we were supposed to be doing what we were supposed to be doing, we were sitting in State House. So we've lost the credibility too. So there needs to be another umpire, another person doing this. We can learn from others. We're not the first ones to do this. So there are other actors that can come and do it. And secondly, James, it can't be a political process alone. Yes, we understand there are political processes that have to be happening, but there's also a place where we need to talk about the economics of this dialogue. We also need to talk about, and very big is just the philosophy of how we do it. So we cannot give it to the politicians. We left the politicians to do the final putting together of our constitution. And look what they gave us. So we can't trust the politicians. We can't. And I tell you guys, don't trust the politicians. We can't leave it alone to them. In as much as they are players, it has to be a collaborative effort.
Right. The question of how not leaving this to politicians then become an important question. There's hyper, right now, engagement. Every citizen is engaged with every document that comes from State House, that comes from, government. But that, in all honesty, is one thing that keeps them accountable. But at some point, as they say, people will be like, I have things to do, as Nadia says. I need to go sell my tomatoes. I can't be every day on a space for 8 hours, right? That is my job. So walk me through this question of what part of engagement should we be talking about and accountability, and how does that look like, so that we keep this process alive, to make sure that we all don't lose our time, and also don't get fatigued with the process.
I think one thing we need to appreciate, there was Goldenberg some time back. Let me start there. A report was prepared. People had a lot of discussions. We saw a lot of parading of people. Then that dwindled. We saw Anglo-Rising came. People ate public money. They could not be held accountable. Then that disappeared. People like, there was a Ndongo report on land justice. Nothing became out of it. The Commission on Justice and Reconciliation, there was a report about that. Nothing ever done about it. Until people are now tired. And what we are saying is, we want to see full implementation. And because we know some of these people cannot be able to do that for the obvious reasons that they don't believe in the Constitution itself. And it's very unfortunate, even the church took a position of fighting the Constitution, a very dangerous route in 2010. We need to, those who cannot do their job, they step aside and they allow those who can do the job to take over and steer this country in full implementation of our Constitution. Because some of these things, I don't need to remind the president that every child needs education. When the government was being formed in 1963, there were three things: poverty, diseases, and ignorance. Our education system still affordable, and the people are able to go to school? No. Do our hospitals still providing medicines? You find 8 counties are lacking medicine for BCG, for tuberculosis vaccination to children. We are exposing them, and someone has money where he can walk into a fundraiser and give the same money to the church. I always wonder what this project in the church that never end, and we attend the same churches. And so you go to that issue, the issue of poverty, ignorance, and the other one is, I don't know. The education, we have ignorance, we have diseases, and we have poverty. How many Kenyans are living below $1 a day income? Most Kenyans are, that's why they are online. That's why you find them on login the whole day, because what else will I be doing? Moving around myself. Before I got an internship as an advocate, I remember I dropped 36 CVs in the city of Nairobi. And all the advocates will tell you, we'll pick you, but we can't be able to sustain you. Advocates are struggling. Doctors, we saw them, they are struggling. Those careers that all parents wished their children to become, you can imagine they are struggling. So what happens to the other Kenyan? It shows you that we need to get serious. We have talked about progressive realization of the socio-economic rights. Have we seen the government put in place steps that are geared towards realizing this? Deliberate steps. So that we don't just talk about progressive realization. Progressive realization has a cutout that, are you putting up measures? We talk about two-third gender role. Up to date, they have not done anything. Justice Maraga reminded us before he left the office about that issue. No one has taken action about it. So what we need is not dialogue, it is action. I think that is what the leadership need to know, that we have talked too much. We need to see, I don't need to remind the member of parliament that I am telling you I don't want an extra tax. I want you to be accountable about that. I don't remind the member of parliament that I am paying you a salary of almost 1 million shillings, then I pay you allowance to attend your plenary. Who pays us to attend plenary? And you have a salary. Who pays you to attend a committee of the job you are employed to do by the people? What makes them so scared that once they get elected, they need 10 bodyguards? What are they doing wrong? They know it. And that's what we want them to address.
Okay. Nadia, you raised an important question the last time about the role of creative, and and we've seen what the creatives have been able to do for this movement in this time, using your own talents to push the conversation forward, musicians, comedians, and the rest. But also, there was a question about the corporate world that would stop you doing these things before. There was a reason for that, because the corporate world and the government work, hand by hand. What happens when that comes back? When you're told by the person who's gives you the contract that I continue seeing you doing this Gen Z thing, I can't keep on supporting. What happens?
For me, I'd say any sane person that has seen how this revolution started. I remember the first thing was hisi time boy ya kupost. For instance, I work with Standstill right now, and I really appreciate them because we didn't have to tell them. They saw and they were like, you guys, you can do whatever you want to do. You understand? So for me, it's about, if you're a sane person, you can see that the pressure and the force is something that you cannot run away from. It will catch up with you. So I think we've had, corporates that have been really understanding and supportive, and we haven't been blacklisted yet. We haven't been sent that you're out of work email. So they have understood. And today, I just want to talk about the power of social media as well. Huwa wanasema msanii ni kioo cha jamii. Every time. Personally, when I started doing music, I was in Maseno University, and during the holidays, we'd go to Kenya National Theatre. And we had something, if there's any creative here, they know PAL, Poetry After Lunch. And what most people don't know, I started out as a poet. And I'd go there, if I do a small, maybe small poetry, I'd have other guys just listening to them. And what these people would talk about is the social injustices. It meant that the time wasn't then. It's a process, it's a journey. We had begun that journey of going to Poetry After Lunch. You're listening to people talk their truths. Talk about mimi nimetoka Kibera, these are the problems that I have seen. But now it has come a place whereby now we can retaliate that on social media. I can tweet and say, guys, MCSK needs to be held accountable. We can say, PRISC was given the license to collect on behalf of the other CMOs. Public participation, has it happened? We are the artists, we are the ones who are paying for these people. And that is another conversation that has been held for so long, ever since artists before me found a problem there. I have found a problem there. And I am not going to leave, because at the end of the day, there's a time going to reach, I'm not able to dance on stage as I am dancing right now. So it is, as I said before, it's accountable governance. We have to hold each and every person accountable. Kila mtu. Now, to the ladies, maybe when you are wamechaguliwa, ama they have been given a position, wasiende wakatuaibisha. We've seen the likes of Karen Nyamu, more of a socialite rather than a leader. There are so many deserving women. I am sorry to say that. It's a stray bullet, but it's the truth. There are so many deserving women who are
intellectual, who are smart. We don't need to know your personal life. What have you done for the girl child? For the longest time, women have fought. You're given a position, and all we can talk about is your personal life. She really needs to check herself. Yes.
All right. Thanks. Maria, if anyone engages with politics, and we look at this in this sense, that it would be foolhardy for anyone to think that the political class is going to walk away from this and surrender and say, okay, you guys have won, fantastic, we're out. Okay? That is not going to happen. They're going to rely on what they do best, which is politics. And I suspect this is what's going to happen in the next 2-3 years. From where you sit, with all these issues that we need to solve, and there are many, right? And they're serious. You know, Parliament and constitutional, you know, two-third gender rule not anywhere being affected. There are many things on the priority of this list we just don't know and don't have. Give us some advice. How should we look at these questions that we exercise our minds and say we should have priorities, bare minimums, and go forward? Because the political class will have that. And this is a long battle, as Reverend Goy has told us.
Yeah, so I think the first thing, we need to appreciate that the country has changed. It's not business as usual. So there's been a shift in the minds of Kenyans. Whether they're saying it or not, whether they're organizing or not, it's present. And we have to seize the moment. So where do our leaders come from? They come from within us. Today we'll sit here and say, hey, James unatosha mboga. Where tutakuchagua? But what happens? What happens? What follows after? Hey, Mhesh. What do we say? Toboka. Kakitu kalanch. Mhesh. That's the problem. Our politics, our governance is transactional. And the minute I give you a 50 bob, a 100 bob, a 200 bob, I'm done with you until next time. So this shift has to be literal. Like, we can't just talk about it. We have to live it. We have to talk it. We have to walk it. The fact of the matter is, politicians are smart. Even the ones we say are uneducated are street smart. So they will just look at what is trending and jump on it. And if we've decided that going forward, we're serious about our governance, we're serious about who gets into office, how the hell does somebody get elected while they're in jail? How do you get elected after shooting somebody dead? And DCI put out a notice that they're looking for you, and you get elected. So what Nadia, what Mike Mushiri, what other artists and individuals and human rights activists have been doing needs to be amplified. Take civic education very literally, because there are people who think that there's an MP, I think he's called Kamala, in Western. He was telling his people that sasa mjue tunamaliza maneno ya CDF, sasa msikuje kwangu kuniomba. Because that's the way things are done. You come, you ask me for 300 bob, sawa, sawa. And he'll not perform. He will not build that road. I mean, nothing will get done. So we need to amplify the voice of civic education. I think that's very important. People need to understand why electing an MCA is very important, because that's a person who's closest to you in terms of resources that have been devolved to the county. Why a political party is not more superior to an individual who's representing you at the ground. It's important for us, and I think you've debunked this, that tribalism is no longer a factor. And as long as it remains a non-factor, we are ahead. So mtu wetu, that politics is gone. So if we keep at it, and if we keep agitating for the very things that we're actually talking about, governance, accountability, transparency, right from the elective positions. And I think this is an opportunity for young people. You can get elected without being on a party. Yeah? But remember, if our institutions, and this is a very critical point for me, James, if our institutions are not safeguarded, today our institutions are failing us because they are at the mercy of the executive. Why? Because the executive pays. They're the ones who provide a budget. So everybody who's in a position of leadership, a position of governance, a position of representation is swallowed by the system. And we've talked about the system. When you get there, you're given, the first thing you're given as a chairman is an allowance, sitting allowance. The next thing, mkubwa unataka gari gani? And that thing gets to your head and you forget why you got there in the first place. So let's fight for our institutions. Let's get our institutions back. Let's make sure anybody who's nominated to serve on those institutions is a credible person and they can always pass the suitability test that is Chapter 6. Remember, in Kenya, we don't have an absence of laws. Steve Wanjiru talked about the conflict of interest bill that is currently in Senate. That bill, it's not that we don't have laws that could have jailed people for conflict of interest. Right. What we've had is deliberate missteps in the application of the law. So the unification of these laws is important. And that's why when you said that, what will we do going forward? Because people will get tired and they'll go back to doing what they need to do. Let us just hold people to account. Start by recalling. And I like that process that people are actually taking now. And let's keep whoever is in office accountable. Let's keep them on their toes. Let's get involved in the budget-making process. Do we know when the cycle starts? Because it's about to start again in September. Right. So that eternal vigilance. It's a lot to ask for the citizenry, but I think it's a price we are ready to pay, and it's been obvious from the reasons.
I want to get one comment from Sylvia, who's been waiting for like an hour. Sylvia, if you can have your minute now, what is the thing that you want us to do next? Do you have Sylvia?
Yes, good afternoon.
Go ahead.
I'm speaking as a layperson that according to how things are right now, we understand that a government is formed by three arms. I think we have three arms of the government. But as things are now, it's like the parliament and the executive have merged. So we do not have oversight. The legislature, people like the MPs are supposed to represent the people who voted them to go there and do the legislation. But even if they do the legislation, is it favoring a common citizen? Everything they are doing is about them. So I was asking, I'm speaking as a layperson, so just pardon me, and if at all I'm wrong, just try to enlighten me more. As a layperson, under Article 1 of the Constitution, can I say clause number 2, which says that people can exercise their right, is it their right, directly, or can I say the leadership or something? Like we can exercise our power directly. Now, how do we do it legally? Because right now, the parliament is there, but it's like we are the ones who are doing the job. We are here on the streets. We are the ones providing oversight. We are the ones pushing for better legislation. So how do we go about it? Because all this mess is because whoever we put in power messed us up. This also has come about because of the micromanaging, the executive micromanaging the other two, trying to micromanage the other two arms of the government. How do we get ourselves into this?
Okay. All right. Thank you. I think just an important question, and maybe I'll start with you, Mary, then we'll go to Gary. This idea that you elect people to get to office and they decide that we know best, all right? In fact, you become very clever all of a sudden, and I know what you want. And I think we saw that on this finance bill, that MPs literally told everyone that you guys have no point whatsoever. We know best and we'll do what we want. How do we stop that from ever happening again? that a person who gets elected becomes truly a servant, not our lords?
I think it just goes back to the same thing of public participation, because what happens is that we have to accept that once we elect a leader, we are expecting that they will go and deliver on the mandate. So the issue of, did we elect a party or an individual? Because usually the wave, you know, you're told, this one got in kwa sababu ya wave. And the people were with the wave. So that's why the MPs, some of the MPs had the temerity to tell us, it's not you, it's the party. It's not you I'm accountable to, it's the party. So the first thing is, because you cannot recall an MP until they've been in office for 2 years, is just to keep a record of it, I guess. Because now, you know, constitutionally, you cannot recall before a certain period. But the fact of the matter is that the way we have seen participation being carried out with creation of ChatGPT, breaking down the information, that's the first thing. Breaking down the information, ensuring it reaches people. Petitions are online. It's easier now to find people, to bring people together. Before you had to be, you know, moneyed to do these things. Right. So it's much easier now.
Okay. Reverend Koi, how do we make our politicians actually work for us? How do we stop the arrogance, the kiburi that they have, that because I'm in office now, I do whatever I want?
The message has already been sent. Yeah. The message has already been sent. And what I'm very happy to see is now legislators now being very penitent about what they're doing. That's one. But then the second one is just adding what she has just said in itself. There are ways we can just keep our legislators accountable. One is just, you know, there's a roll call in Parliament. So when you go in Parliament, you have to, you know, sign in. And so we need to be able to see, just the way when we were in school, you know, you sign a roll in itself. Were you present? And that information is available to any person in the public. We know one legislator now who has barely been in Parliament for 1.5 years or so, that is now out in the public space. And then thirdly, it's being able to get access to your member of Parliament and demanding access to your member of Parliament as often as you can. Like you have a constituency office. How often is this member of Parliament in their office? And so that is another place where you can go and demand to be able to see them. What are your office hours at the constituency office? That is where you can meet them at their local office. And if you are a big office, the government has given this MP or legislator the resources to cover the entire, like North Hall. That's a huge constituency. But there are different constituency sections where you can meet your legislator. So those are some of the things that come to mind.
Yeah. Steve.
Yes, I think, sorry. I was thinking, as I was talking, I was thinking about how we gauge our MPs' performances. And we diverted it to the duties and the responsibilities that are with the ministers, cabinet. Those are the parameters most of the time we gauge when we are voting for a member of parliament. Amejenga barabara ngapi? Ameweka mashule ngapi? Is that the job of a legislature? No. Because that has been the parameter for voting. So I think even as we move forward in this conversation, and as I address your concern, we need to do an inward reflection as a people and ask ourselves, are we expecting the wrong things from the right people? Are we voting you as a member of parliament? Then we expect you to build roads for us. Then we have a cabinet which has a ministry of road and a budget to do roads. So that is where we spend our money, wastage, and it becomes a point of a lot of wastages and privileges. And I think my feeling and my contribution to this conversation of the young people, and I want the whole Kenyans to embrace this, not as a Gen Z affair, but the spirit of the youth. Why the spirit of the youth? I want to say this quoting Henry Ford. There's something he said that the greatest thing you can do to yourself is to keep your mind young. Why do you need to keep your mind young? Because at your formative age is when you have a vision, is when you have ambitions. So once you become old and you allow the aged you to be complacent, you lose the vision. We got our constitution in 2010 with a lot of ambition. That was our youth at that time. We got our independence with a lot of ambition. Then what did we do? We became complacent. That's where this guy is. When you visit them, they give you a handout. Before you even negotiate, you live with a bahasha. You see a priest has gone to State House, they're living with a brown bahasha. And you saw them walking in, they didn't have one. So I don't know, there's a Bible inside there. You create an office of intercessors, as in like your prayer request. These are crazy things that we have been witnessing as a country. And it's high time we start holding our leaders accountable. Even the judiciary itself. The last time there was we find, with all due respect to the courts, we filed a petition challenging the deployment of the military. And I don't need to go to the details, but we all saw the live stream of that particular ruling. We all read the Constitution. I don't need to remind anyone the clause in the Constitution. And we can question the integrity of such a person when they are holding a public office. So we need to hold these people accountable. We need to have the right people doing the right job and not putting the wrong people. That's why I keep on saying, until and unless we push for the removal of CDF from the hands of parliamentarians, we are going to continue electing people because they are giving us money. That's why they buy the ticket, because I buy it. I have friends who contribute, give me campaign money. Why is it costing almost 50 million to join parliament? If I save the whole salary for parliament from day one to the last day, I can't raise 50 million. Even if you work with the simplest mathematics, because they have a lifestyle to maintain. So there's a lot of inward reflection that is needed, both to the people, to the president, to the leadership, at all levels and at all arms, and we need to hold them serious accountable.
All right, thank you very much, Reverend Goi Odera, nashukuru sana, Steve Bugwa, and Maria Minekap. You've all done very well, thank you for the panel. I leave Nadia to perform as we exit the stage. Thank you very much. You've all been very nice and very kind.
Thank you very much. It was a great pleasure.
Ngoja.
Thank you very much.
Ningewaomba tusimame. Let us stand up, please. You know, when I came here, I didn't come today to perform, by the way. I didn't come as a Kenyan artist, a celebrity. I came here as a concerned Kenyan. And first off, I want to send my condolences to the families of the bereaved soldiers who we were together kwa barabara, kwa streets as we were fighting. So my biggest condolences to the family and to anyone here who's been affected by this time. As Boniface has said, yeah, they've partnered with Kenya councillors. What is it called again? I think I've forgotten the name. So you can see them after this. And for me, it's also to say, we've had a win, yes. We've had some wins. But at the same time, we need justice for the people, to the families zenye wameachwa na wapendwa wao. They need closure. Ama namna gani? Tuweke ngoma imechangamka kidogo. Weka maombi. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Sio jujuni, si keleleni. Turudie tena. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Sio jujuni, si keleleni. Tene kazi di. Hoya, hoya, hoya. Hoya. Hoya, hoya. Nilichopata nikiomba walisema kitakwisha. Nikitoa shukurani hadharani wakasema najigamba. Hao binadamu walilipa wiki. Sasa imepita miaka bado wanasubiri. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa. Tuone wote. Ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Hey.
sio juju, ni maombi, ni maombi, si kelele, ni maombi, ni maombi, sio juju, ni maombi, ni maombi, si kelele, ni maombi, ni maombi. Hoya, 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 hoya. Ati na mikono nitainua, magoti nipige, niweleze jinsi alivyotenda katika maisha yangu. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa, ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Kazi ya Mungu kweli haina makosa, ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Sio juju, ni maombi.
Asanteni sana. Ni maombi, si kelele, ni maombi, ni maombi, sio juju, ni maombi, ni maombi, si kelele, ni maombi, ni maombi. Asante sana, asante, asante, asante.
Ila Mungu hawezi kubali uanguke. Alichoanzisha leo lazima atakamilisha. Kazi ya Mungu haina makosa, ingekuwa binadamu wanatoa ningekosa. Kazi ya Mungu.
DJ.
Ajoshaskia
Wadaglis.
Aha,
Najoshaskia.
Najoshaskia tukiingia ni kublast. Uko kabado unachukuliwa madam sauce. Anguka nawe tabaki umeflow na vibe. Anguka nao koko single for now. Mdagi mteja patikan. Hadi late night saa 6 ndo tani wai. Nikupin location ankofana na hii. Suka teka video na post pale NGC. Jina ni Kantel kurapsi ni talent. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo, twende down low now. Standa juu ya fit, mikono juu alafu click. Tuliza pesa alafu one lege. Anguka nayo, one lege, check it. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Check it. Anguka nayo kama uko na new catch. Anguka nayo kama uko na new catch. Anguka ni chi. Aha. Kutekewa kwa daily miti. Mana zi. Mana zoko. Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Ati anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo kama relax.
Anguka nayo kona patina magwasha. Anguka nayo koko single for now.
Anguka nayo ati anguka nayo.
Nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo. Ati anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo. Kama uko na new catch.
Anguka nayo kona
patina magwash. Anguka nayo round 2 kwa iba. Anguka nayo.
Anguka nayo.
Check it. Anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Ati anguka nayo. Anguka nayo. Check it. DJ.
Anguka nayo.
Hey, anguka nayo.
A round of applause. A round of applause for the guys Anguka nayo. Thank you so much. You can have a seat. And then we have Dr. Njoki Wamaye. She is an assistant professor of politics and international studies from the USA Africa. Please, a round of applause for her. Kwani tumechoka kupiga makelele? Tumechoka? Tumechoka? And then the next panelist is Cyprian Nyamwamu. He is from the Kenya Bora. Thank you so much. And then we have Boniface Mwangi, the human rights activist. We all know him. Please. I am Linus Moshigadi. I will be facilitating this round of discussions. Please, karibu sana.
Linus.
So I want us to begin from where we've come from in terms of activism in Kenya and what brought us to where we are here today. So I will begin from you, Boniface Mwangi. You have been an activist. What has been the changes, the journey, and what has been the difference with this set of protests that we've had in Kenya?
The journey began in 1922 when a lady called Nyanjiro stood up on what is called known as Harithuku Road. And she told the men who are there, if you're not going to challenge these police officers, give me your trousers. And from challenging that, that was the first recorded protest in this country. And that particular day, I think over 100 people died, but the British never recorded how many people died. And Nyanjiro was killed on that particular day. And fast forward to today is that there's been a passing of the baton over the years to a level where Cyprian used to organize via phones and in person, to where we are now organizing online, where people show up and say, you know what, online has become our public square, but now the public square is going offline. So you go online and say this is the issue, and you go offline. But I think the game changer is most of the young kids in this country are very angry about the state of the nation, and then they are fearless because they have nothing to lose. They are hungry, they are angry, they are unemployed. I was talking to some young people from the gate, and they're telling me, we're so broke we can't even date. You can't even have a girlfriend. You can't even make someone, you can't even think of starting a family.